When I'm asked how to improve marketing performance, I have to respond with some basic questions. These questions help identify the focus, the intention, and the desired outcomes of that particular marketing campaign. These are very useful for you as a copywriter, marketer, or business development professional because they help you deliver greatest value to the customer while setting expectations. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. In today's podcast, we're going to talk briefly about quick performance measures. See, my reply when someone says, how do they increase sales? How do they increase profits? How can they double their returns? How can they get better use out of their marketing dollars? My response is how are you measuring success? It's very important because I find people who are spending $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 a month on marketing, and they cannot clearly articulate how they're measuring success. And I know it sounds weird because you're in the marketing business. I know it sounds unusual, but ask the question. A client comes to you and says, I want this sales letter to work better, beat my control. Well, how are you measuring success? Now, in a direct marketing world, they're probably going to say, I'm measuring success by the number of sales. But that's only one measure. What about customer lifetime value? Are the customers you get from your sales letter A better than the customers you get from sales letter B? How do you know? And by outlining those measures, you're going to have an indicator of direction. So you're going to have measures, you apply activity, and then you'll see the direction the results go in. You're going to have focus where you're talking on the same page. Well, what does improvement mean? Okay, well, we improved conversion rate by 25%. Okay, now I like to pair all my measures. So I improved conversion rate by 25% and the transaction value increased by such and such. So what I've developed over time, though, is these quick performance measures. And I'll give them to you real quick right here because they're the basics. If the customer says to you, I don't know how I'm measuring success, which I doubt they'll say it, but if they do, there still might be an opportunity there. We start with cost per lead. How much did you pay for a lead today? I want to increase the number of leads from my business website. How much does it cost you today to get a lead from your business website? I want to increase the number of leads that we get by all sources. Great. Which sources have the lowest cost per lead? Which sources have the highest? And now that's a start because the next one is cost per sale. It is possible to have a very low lead cost, but a very high sales cost. Now you're breaking this down by channel, and this is a conversation that's more than a discovery call. Once you've determined the customer is of value, once you determine the customer can pay the bills, once you determine the customer has an idea what the hell's going on in their business, you start asking these questions to start segmenting. Now, the best answer is they say, well, I don't know. I don't know how to measure success. And now you have an indicator on where you need to start with them. They don't need a new sales letter. They don't need new lead generation. They don't need a lower cost per lead. What they need is a means to measure the success to know whether or not what you're doing is of value. See, a lot of copywriters, marketers, business development professionals, they get into an organization and the organization doesn't know how to measure the value you're delivering. And therefore, they'll go with the lowest price. And so you get screwed out. You have great resources and value and you can do things for the business, but they don't know how to measure the value of what you're doing. So they'll just go with the lowest price. So again, we reply with a question, and a certain set of measures that works very well is our quick performance measures. And again, what is your gross cost per lead? What is your cost per lead per channel? What is your gross cost per customer? What is your cost per customer per channel? Cost per action. This is sometimes useful when you're using pay-per-click advertising or some kind of advertising where you're not yet getting conversion. You just want to know somebody's clicking through. You want to know somebody's coming through. You also have a profit per sale and a profit per customer. Now, customer lifetime value is important, but that's not a quick performance measure. Customer lifetime value takes a little more calculations. You might have fall off depending on the type of product. So if you're offering a subscription service, you might have less renewals. If you're offering rental apartments, for example, worked with a company in the past that was generating leads for tenants to place into rental properties. And once the tenant has a very tight timeline. They want a house in the next 1 to 2 months. And so that lead has a fall off. And as the leads fall off, your cost per lead increases, but your overall customer lifetime value is different by the unit, and your price testing is limited because it's a fixed unit. Somebody's going to live in it for a year. Somebody's going to live in it for 2 years, but the same tenant doesn't tend to come back. So that's a different customer lifetime value, is more complex of a measure to worry about. But again, it's that conversation. Share with me how you are measuring success. Okay, great. You're measuring cost per lead. You're measuring cost per sale. You're measuring the cost per action in cases where you are trying to optimize your front end. But ultimately, you could just go down to the cost per lead. You could just go down for cost per sale. Now, there's a bunch of magic measures that I hear back often that you need to be aware of. Is because sometimes people will say, you know what, I'm looking at referrals here. I want to get somebody in. I want to get them exposed to what I'm doing. I want to interact with them, set an appointment. See, cost per action could be the cost it takes to set an appointment. But again, what is the behavior we want to modify in that prospect so that they become a paying customer? Quick Performance Measures does that for you. And actually, this whole topic came up because I'm working on a special report on performance measures. There are secret formulas you can use, but they're really simple formulas when you understand how do we measure success. Now, when you sit in front of a prospect or you're doing your own lead generation, it's important to understand what it's costing you to sit in front of somebody, because that reinforces your behavior and how you prepare for, treat, and address that meeting. So we want to take performance measures beyond simply flowcharts so a flowchart of prospect, present, and close. You might have prospect is the suspects in the marketplace. How many people we're prospecting and reaching? Of those prospects, how many take action to see our lead piece? Of those who see our lead piece, how many of them become a lead? And then immediately after the lead piece, there's some kind of offer. How many take the offer? See, that's very simple. Starting with a workflow or a funnel. Then we're adding the numbers to it. And then on top of the numbers, we're looking at conversion rates. But that's a distraction at times, because you can convert 1 in 200 and still make profit, because of the value of the sale, the value of the customer lifetime value. If you're doing marketing for a financial services industry that's going to take 1 to 2% of the assets under management, you could get 1 or 2 whales. And there are financial services folks that do whale hunting. They only want leads who they can sit down and spend a week with for free, because the asset value that they'll put under management is large enough that they're going to get back that fund over multiples. And they want to invest in relationship up front rather than just getting somebody to land on a page and give over their email address. So it's the quality and context where your expertise comes in, on top of basic quick performance measures, if they don't have measures of their own, because they may have measures of their own depending on their industry. And then ultimately testing with a 2-factor measure. Are we improving 2 of the 5 measures in the positive direction? These are the kinds of behavioral measurements that give you a repeatable or high probability outcome. So if you've got 5 performance measures and a prospect is positive on all 5 measures, they're at a higher quintile or higher value than somebody who's positive on 2 of the 5 measures. And we talk about that a little bit in decision-making matrices, but ultimately the breakdown of what I'm saying here and what you must understand is that in order for your customers to know the value you deliver, they need to know how they measure success. When you know how they measure success, you're more likely to be able to produce results that are seen or perceived as successful to them. Now, of course, your expertise is going to help them with the nuances, even the unknown problems that they face. But again, do you see how simple this is? It's so simple, people forget it. Quick performance measures. If the customer cannot measure success, they cannot make a decision about hiring you. At least not unless you have the lowest price. Now, there's some people who always pay the highest price, but you don't want them shopping around. You want them to have an understanding of your value before you even get started. And so what I suggest most of the time is to first test this with yourself. Make sure you're using this yourself. Quick performance measures could be that end of the week scratch down that you do. You go through your web analytics, you go through your call logs, you go through your prospect list, and you jot down at the end of the week the basic numbers. And then those numbers roll up into some kind of calculation. Those calculation rolls up into some kind of dashboard. And then ultimately from that dashboard, you can make more educated decisions. You can make better decisions about what you're doing with the marketing dollars that you have. Does this make sense to you? Can you see how clarifying upfront the success measures ensures you're more able to produce success or results for that particular client? This also helps inform you about alternative approaches to get the outcome your customer desires. Quick performance measures are good, but maybe their industry has a measure that really triggers that outcome. So for example, in the newsletter publishing world, they very often have, like in Agora, they very often have a low-cost front-end newsletter. It is $26 a year. It's $60 a year newsletter. It's 12 issues. The only thing they're doing there is they're getting funds to pay for their marketing. Now, because they rent their lists out, they want more people on that list covering their own marketing, because they're going to turn around and get a per name revenue from those people being on a list. So there'll be a wealth income newsletter. There'll be a long-term income newsletter. There'll be a quick money asset newsletter. They'll have a bunch of different $26 newsletters, 12 issues a year, 2 or 3 special reports that are in specific niches, because all they want is as many clicks as possible, as many people on that list as possible, because their lead cost is near zero once they get a conversion. So they're really just breaking even on the front end to build a list. Then they take that house list and they make special offers of $5,000 and $10,000 events. I'm on a couple of these lists, and I often get the investment in precious stones, the investment in real physical gold, investment in Cayman Islands, apartment suite retreats that allow you to visit the different banks, $25,000. Now, these are big ticket items hidden behind a very low ticket public offering. And the newsletter business is profitable because very often the newsletter will have webinars and events. But if you're talking to that type of prospect that's not as sophisticated as Agora, not as sophisticated as some of these big newsletters, you may find out that they're looking at trying to make money on the newsletter. See, you need a cash surge behind the newsletter to make any money, because information is perceived as free. Information is perceived as, if you got enough time, you'll find the answer. And so their focus is now going to be in the marketing materials to find people who don't have time to search and who want quick tips and ideas so that they have a cutting edge, and they want to be a part of what seems to be a elite group, but might actually have 100 to 200,000 subscribers. And they're willing to put out a small amount of money, less than the price that they're paying, and the wasted time searching on the internet for stuff. And so $26, $60 is a throwaway. It's no big deal to them. But if you're measuring on that cost per lead, and you're measuring on that cost per sale, it might be $200, $300, $400 per newsletter subscriber to get in the door. Not realizing that if you have 100,000 subscribers and 1 out of every 200 buys a high-ticket product, that high-ticket product will deliver the margins the company is looking for. Meanwhile, all the front end is actually paying for itself. Now, this is an exciting topic to cover: quick performance measures, how to position yourself in the marketplace as a copywriter, marketer, or business development professional. I like to that's an evolution, by the way. You start out as a copywriter, writing press releases for $99. Then you move up to a marketer who's writing campaigns and sales letters. And then finally, you graduate to the business development professional who sets up a company for success and gets them started where they need to be, so that they know what the success is. They have a clear picture. They have goals. Again, we could talk about that in a coaching session. But from what I've shared here, remember, when someone asks you to do work, you reply, how are we going to measure success? You can use the inclusive we. How are we going to measure success? Hey, I want a sales letter. Well, great. If I write you a sales letter, how are we going to measure success? Or how does your business measure success today? And then if they don't have at least the quick performance measures, you're going to set up some reasons why. Because if they can't measure your success, they can't realize and make it tangible that you did anything for them. This is about getting repeat assignments. This is about setting up value in advance and expectations in advance so that you can meet those and exceed those expectations. It's a very unique way of looking at things that is often missed. And again, that's why we're here. That's why I'm Justin Hitt at Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. And if you've got questions about what I covered today, I would just love to answer your questions. We're not going to be pen pals or have a long conversation on the phone, but you're welcome to visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. Ask your questions, and it would be my joy to answer them in either another podcast response, in a letter, or something that can help you put this to action. And I guarantee if you take this and ask yourself, how do I measure success? And you start working out these basic numbers that you're going to consistently gather and put together as a decision-making tool, then you will create and keep profitable customers and transform business relationships using words that sell, guaranteed. Thanks for listening.